My name is Ani Manjikian. I am the author of Spirit of the Lone Horse and the soon-to-be-released Do You Believe in Legend, which is part of the Stars of Heroes series. Now, Heroes is not misspelled. It's not H-E-R-S, it's H-E-R-O-S. And that's actually part of mythology, Paleo-Balkan mythology. What it is it's the, they don't know that much about the Iron Age Balkans, but they do know that they had a god of the underworld called Heros. The genre is harder to define. It's science fiction, but it's also military, women's fiction, and there's a genre that nobody knows about, or suppressing, called science fantasy. So it's a broad range.
How many in the series do you have planned?
Let's see, 15 in the core, 14 in a secondary series called Origin Worlds, and then there's a third series called Time Puzzle, which I think is going to have 7 to 14, but I haven't decided yet because I'm waiting for the first 2 series to be written.
So give us a little bit, just an overview, a quick run over of the world in which these stories take place.
Well, these stories take place anywhere from the 21st century to the 26th century and beyond. So there's not one particular world. The 21st century, of course, is limited to Earth. We haven't really gotten off the planet that much. In the 26th century, it could be 3 galaxies. I have Earth, I have Uranus, which is the planet where the Alliance meets. I've got the Arcrillians over in Arcrill, you know. Those are the shape-changing horses. I got the Centaurians who live over in Alpha Centauri. You know, so it's a wide variety of planets and a wide variety of galaxies. And even when I say 26th century and beyond, I mean, we're talking up here. We're talking mental. Because you know, my Arcrillians are shape-changing horses, yeah, who are psychic and can see basically in the past, present, and future. Though they really have to anchor themselves in the present, because if they live in the infinite too long, they just kind of disappear.
Cliche about your genre, do you think it's very unfair?
Beat me up, Scotty. No, seriously. You're either I mean, when people say science fiction, oh, you're Star Wars, Star Trek. Science fiction is Isaac Asimov. It's Ray Bradbury. It's Press Anthony. No, technically that could be considered fantasy. It's, you know, the guy who did Dune, the guy who did Blade Runner. It's this whole world. It's these whole universes. It's not just Star Trek and Star Wars, people.
How much of your world have you constructed already?
I'm building every day. I'm building. Well, no, I've probably constructed 3 planets. Earth 21st century, Earth 26th century. I have a general idea about. Arcrill, definitely. Centaurians I have to work on. But so I'd say about 3 planets. And, you know, the various universes and stuff. I have a general idea. I just don't, you know, have detailed descriptions.
Mm-hmm. Have you
get lost in details?
How detailed have you gotten? Do you write language codes and maps,
yeah,
of that nature?
Yeah, I have 2 different languages. I have Centaurian and Arcrillian, and in fact, in Legend, we use some Arcrillian and some Centaurian because there's certain concept. Most of the time, just to be nice to people, I make everybody speak English, but there are certain words, certain phrases that the Centaurians or Arcrillians will use, and you, by the context, you kind of get what they're saying. I might eventually put a glossary in there or put it up on my website so people know the translation, but I really haven't gotten into the languages. I do have the culture of the Centaurians. I do have the cultures of the Arcrillians. I have a 74-page manual on my series. Tons of notes on my series, tons of notes on my characters, tons of notes. It's not, what's weird is with this, I did everything in my head. Everything was stored up here. It's been a long, slow process for me to get it on paper or get it in, so I have the cross-reference. Because usually when I'm writing, I'm not writing long-ass details. I'm writing the stories, or I'm writing dialogue entries, and then going back and making sure I'm not contradicting myself.
What values or characteristics do you like in your heroes?
I like how they try to be real. They don't try to be heroes. They just try to be normal people. They call it as they see it. They're not like, oh, I'm a hero, so I'm way up here.
Firstly, what do you like to see in a villain?
Oh, ooh, that's a good question. Villains. I like the ones who are kind of best friend, but then they turn on you. You know, because I don't like the hero villain, you know, the black and the white. There's always the shades of gray. So there's going to be villains that are heroes, heroes that are villains, and people that are in between. So why do villains need to be so identifiable? In my books, yes, I do. You know, there's a war going on between two clans, and it's been identified. Anybody with the last name of Nolan is a villain, basically.
Which character of yours do you think would most likely be your best friend?
Joe. Her name's Joanna C. Mason. She's the narrator of the first century, and any time her family's involved, parts of the series. Now, the way I know this is because she's the only character who demands to be written in first person present. Everybody else is fine with third person past, but she has first person present unless she's not feeling herself or unless somebody else is describing her. Every other time it's like, no, first person, third person past, I will be awkward.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, well, I have another character in a different series that's doing the same thing. It's interesting.
Does that screw up your timing at all when you're trying to write through that?
No, actually, it's easier. First person present, except for a couple of words where I screw up, like would versus will and all that stuff. When I'm writing Joe, it's easier for me to think that way. Everybody else, I mean, I'm so used to writing this. I counted all my words today just because I was trying to make a point on my blog or an upcoming blog entry. I've written 410,000 words in my Stars of Heroes series. At least. Not counting all the notes. So I'm used to writing it this way. I'm used to thinking this way. I'm used to doing it. Creativity, it's the spirit, it's the style of the writer. That's important. Not to meet all the goals to become a New York Times bestseller. I mean, there's too much, in some respects, there's too much pressure put on indie authors to be the ones supported by the big five. I mean, there are realistic goals. I mean, to get a book noticed by Hollywood, you have to have 100,000 to 250,000 sales. That's a goal. That's where a lot of authors fails. Comparisons, not goals.
When does the second book release, and what is the schedule for the next one to come out?
Do You Believe in Legend is currently on pre-order in Amazon. 11th. I'm hoping the third book will come out sometime this year, but I'm not sure because I'm also writing a YA fantasy I want to get out first.
All right. Thank you so much, my friend.
Oh, thank you, dude.
Anything changed? Plots, characters, and so on from the start, from when you wrote the first book to now into the second?
Yes, a lot. See, when I first wrote the horse book, and then I wrote its sequel, I was yelling at the world. I was angry, I was pissed off, I was just dealing with a lot of emotional crap, really being bad for my stories and making them stereotypical. Then when I got to Legend, because Legend was really helping me heal from something, that's when I first really became a writer. That's why it's taken like 20 years to do this story, because it's been me maturing as I've been writing. When I got a chance to be published, and I was having a person review it, they said, yeah, Legend's good, but it's confusing, so why don't you go back and do another story? So I had these two stories that I was really not impressed with. So I ended up pulling the title from one, pulling the story from the other, throwing away 90% of the story, and rewriting the whole thing. I'm a rewriter sometimes. What I have to stop doing, though, is keep getting trapped in the infinite loop of rewriting. So hopefully these things that I've learned over the last couple of years will help me with the next book being faster, because I need to catch up with everybody. I mean, you've got authors that are producing 48 books in a year, and here I am producing one every 2 years.
Well, I know authors hate to do this, and I know that every story is unique. I don't want to devalue your story, but for people, so that they get a general idea of where the direction you're going, compare your stories to a famous work. What is your stories most like?
I hate to say this, but my stories are kind of like Star Trek.